This is part 2 of the Baby Trap saga. Part 3, our final segment, will be posted in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to Childfree for Life. Don't forget to subscribe to be a for-lifer. My tale of an attempted baby trap. If it's ever happened to you, I'd like to hear yours. I had a similar thing happen, but without them claiming infertility. I was currently living with my high school sweetheart, or boyfriend of 2 years. I was working 2 jobs to make ends meet and was super stressed all the time. I started to notice cracks in the relationship and his habits. For example, 5 days per payday, he would always be broke and asking for money from me. He encouraged me to set up a joint bank account with him. Even at 21, it was a huge red flag for me. Second, I had to do everything for him. Even simple tasks like switching laundry over was too much for him. He would pout when he had to lift a finger to clean. After a pregnancy scare, he said he wanted to keep it. I said absolutely not, as I wasn't in a good position mentally nor financially for one. It ended up being just a scare, bullet dodged. Nah. Months later, I noticed my birth control missing from my purse. For a few days, he was adamant about being intimate with me, even though I can't find my pills. I returned home early from work one hot summer day and find them on the table in the kitchen, slightly burnt. I quiz my roommates, then him. He looks nervous, then tells me to drop it. I don't. We fight for days, then he finally admits it. This ding-dong put my birth control in the oven because he read online that it makes them ineffective. I broke up with him and moved into my friend's place as soon as I had enough cash, and completely blocked him on everything. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Reminder to anybody regardless of gender, keep your birth control away from people no matter how much you trust them to avoid the total nightmare I endured. I had a friend named Paul who dated someone named Jane. These are both assumed names. Paul was pretty sure he wanted to stay child-free, but lucky him. Jane is infertile, or at least she said she was. Paul got Jane pregnant very early in the relationship, and about 2 weeks into the relationship, things started getting sour. A few months later, Jane miscarried. She shortly started engaging in emotionally abusive behavior, such as making plans to see Paul, getting audibly excited, and then canceling at the last minute, claiming she never agreed to see him, just for the sake of making him question reality as it happened. It was really unsettling how much excitement she got out of setting up dates and gaslighting him into thinking that she never even tried to set up a date. She had done this maybe 4 or 5 times until it started escalating more. She would wait until Paul was with his friends to berate him in front of them about what a failure of a man he was and how she thought Paul was one of the few good Jews in the world. It ended a few days after she threatened to send a hitman to his house while him and his parents were asleep. A few days later, he wound up losing it, saying, and I quote, "Get out of my life. Do not make any attempt to contact me, and most importantly, go get your tubes tied so that nobody has to suffer the consequences of your crap tier genetics." Nobody has heard from her since, although I almost ran into her at the urgent care a few months back when I was getting my distal tendon looked at. She looked awful. By the look of how bad her skin got and the fact that she gained about 40 pounds on a 4'10" frame, mind you, I'd guess she picked up some sort of substance habit. I can't imagine her life is very fulfilling. It was later found out that the baby didn't even belong to Paul. Paul is now dead set on never having children for as long as he lives. And that story is what turned me from a fence sitter to one of you guys. I couldn't even imagine the pain, sorrow, and agony that procreating with a neo-Nazi with violent and sadistic tendencies would bring Paul and the poor kid. Thank you, Jane, for helping us make up our minds, you freaking Looney Tune. Not me, but my brother unfortunately has been trapped. He told me many times he didn't want kids. He met a girl who was a bit older than him and said she was on the pill and couldn't use protection. Not long after my brother got a promotion at work, she got accidentally pregnant. Now that the baby is born and my brother is on the hook for child support, she's left him. She's now a full-time mummy and then dumps the baby and my brother from Friday to Sunday while she goes out partying. He told me in confidence that it's the worst thing that's ever happened to him, and he thinks he's ruined his life, but the rest of our family seems to think it's a blessing and the best thing to happen to him. A girl I used to be friends with did this to a guy. We were best friends in high school. She seemed like a normal, well-adjusted person. Senior year, she allegedly had a hysterectomy due to ongoing health issues. No one really questioned it. Year later, she met this guy. He was a bit odd, but seemed nice enough. He was adamantly against kids due to a family history of severe mental health issues. He was pretty open about it and the fact that he already struggled with some mental health stuff. Major props to him for knowing what he wanted and taking the steps to take care of himself. A few months later, she had a miracle pregnancy. Her family pressured him into a gunshot wedding. Shortly after the wedding, miracle baby number 2 happened. She faked all sorts of random ailments and stopped working. We knew she faked them as she'd somewhat brag about it. He seemed extremely stressed out, working to provide for everyone so soon out of high school. His own mental health deteriorated and he started had a mental breakdown. Went from an odd but well enough guy to full-on fury, convinced he was born in the wrong body. Should have been a foxkin and started acting really erratically. Became really paranoid, stopped keeping up with his hygiene, would rant about humanity and his thoughts on it among other strange topics. Over time, they quit caring for the kids altogether. The kids were always dirty, wearing ill-fit clothes or barely any clothes at all. They were malnourished and thin. Both of the kids were eventually taken by the state. Ex-friend has been trying for another one. Fury dude runs around town in full fur suit, making animal noises at people. He's 27. I'm not saying the baby trapping turned him into a fury, but I'm saying his mental health has been a sharp downward spiral since the kids were born, then subsequently removed. Dude, what the F? Really, what the F? Poor guy, I'm really so sorry for him and his mental health. How is he? Is he actually seeking therapy? To the best of my knowledge, his family reaches out frequently, encouraging him to get therapy and other interventions. He declines all offers. He and his wife fed off each other's mental illnesses and have essentially convinced each other the entire world is out to get them, specifically. They cut everyone off as outsiders that don't understand. He doesn't talk much anymore, but I see him around town once in a while in his fur suit. She went dark on social media a year or two ago. His last account had one post from a few months ago, just silently showing the rooms of what looks like an abandoned house. There's a lot of personal effects in it, so I think that's where they were last living, but I don't know for sure. The entire situation is really strange, but there's not much anyone else can do. Neither of them keep cell phones and they frequently make new social media accounts under fake names and pictures to escape them, whoever they are. They also don't maintain consistent addresses, so it's hard for them to call for wellness checks. Both of their families are aware of the situation. So, I was seeing this guy, we'd been dating a couple months, but it's still not super serious. Then the protection starts breaking. First one was whatever, we went to Walgreens and got Plan B, chalked it up to a one-off. It happens sometimes, you know? Then the second one broke soon after. Annoyed, we went to Walmart and got Plan B. Third protection in a month breaks. He proceeds to tell me it's okay if I get pregnant. He can take care of me and a baby with his minimum wage job. With this minimum wage job, he can take care of me and a baby. I tell him he can start to prove himself by paying the $40 for my Plan B. And then he would be paying for it for the next time it happened too. Never had another protection break. Not that it mattered because we broke up soon after that. It shouldn't have taken that long, but I was young and willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. Had a girl tell me her tubes were tied. Thankfully, a friend of hers told me she was a freaking liar and was hiding a daughter from me too. I used to hate the word breeder, and to some extent I still do, but now it's because it's too loud of a word for these disgusting people. Glad you didn't get trapped. I had an ex of mine say he didn't want any more children. At the time, I was a dumb 19-year-old girl who fell head over heels for him and decided I could put up with a toddler he had from a previous relationship. Unplanned teen pregnancy. One night, he used stealthing, which is a thing where a man removes the protection during intimacy without his partner knowing. I have no idea how he did it, but I thought he was wearing protection. He held me down while he finished. Once again, I thought he was wearing protection, and I was super into it, so I didn't fight. Only after he got off of me did I realize what happened. I broke up with him shortly after that because I found out he was cheating. The other girl and I actually confronted him in a Five Guys and she called him out for taking things, whether the other person wanted you to or not. The girl he was cheating with is actually a friend of mine now because we had so much in common. He clearly has a type. She said that he had told her multiple times how much he wanted another kid and tried to convince her to have a baby with him. I guess he thought he could baby trap me. He couldn't even afford to feed himself, let alone his current kid or future kid. It took years for me to realize I was intimately assaulted. My therapist said it should fit more under forced intimacy in his opinion, but unfortunately my state would only recognize it as intimacy assault. I never went to the police because I made excuses for him in the moment and tried to block it out. I don't regret not going. I didn't get pregnant since I was on birth control and I never had to see him again. If I did report it, I wouldn't have had any evidence anyway, as I finally realized what had actually happened years afterwards. The statute of limitations hasn't run out yet, but I'm successful and happy with my life. No reason to dump sewage into a beautiful garden, you know? Too long didn't read. My ex intimately assaulted me to try to baby trap me. I didn't realize it was assault for years because I was young and dumb and made excuses for him. Still don't regret letting the trash take itself out.